What the hell is going on with the Bitcoin price action over the last 24 hours, guys? We're going to be covering off that, what to look for in the stock market, because we're coming up to some really key levels at the moment. And the weekly is looking very interesting right now in the stock market. We're going to have a look at that. We're going to look at the NASDAQ as well, Bitcoin dominance, a couple of altcoins, and Ethereum. We're going to cover all that in this session. But first, let's get stuck into BTC, because we have had some serious whale games being played around. Pretty nice price action before the last 24 hours, to be honest. Basically came down into our order block through here, which I was expecting to hold. This has held now since the 18th of March. So, it's been almost 40 days. Really nice clean level through there. And as long as that holds, we're still expecting a pretty solid uptrend. If that does fail, though, I think these two areas of demand zones are going to hold as support, right? Let's dig down onto the 4-hour though and just have a little bit more of a look into what's been going on. So really nice price action through here with the 4-hour SFP of the range lows. So we can see how it swept the range lows through there. And then we had obviously came into our green zone, which is our daily order block we just looked at, right? And this is really nice sort of bottoming action after a solid 10% pullback. And then we had this big rally, which, that's when things started to get interesting overnight, when we sort of pushed up to these levels here and we got into, the sell zone, or, potentially take profit zone for down here for the range traders as well. But we had 4-hour order blocks up here, daily order block. And then we also had our 1-hour order block through here, which is just before the big original dump off that we had last week, right? That got tagged and then we started to roll over, okay? I got into a nice trade through here and still actually I'm holding that. My stop loss was below here. So you see that I had the protection of the first level of support through here. I didn't get stopped out in this crazy price action dump overnight, right? So we'll go and have a look at the 5-minute time frame. So basically what happened was we had an event in the market, which I believe was actually coordinated by some larger players, possibly a hedge fund named Jump, which is one of the biggest in the world. Basically what happened was there was a fake news event released by a Twitter account, which, publishes a lot of news and stuff like that, of on-chain data of potential Silk Road or US government coins and Mt. Gox coins starting to be moved. And the story is that what happened was that came out and was released up here. So the coin started moving, the information was released to the public up here. And then Jump sold $250 million of BTC. And that is what caused this massive sell-off. Now, we're looking at high blocks the other day. I posted a few charts of it in Discord. You might have seen those. But basically, when we're up here, the liquidations were stacked really heavily against the longs, right? So all the way up here, we were just taking out all the shorts. So when we were down here, the shorts were very heavily stacked in their liquidations against them. And then we move against those liquidations and take them all out and move up to upside of the top of the range. Then, we're up here and the liquidations were massively stacked against the longs. So because all the longs have been put in here and all the shorts have had their liquidations taken out, so they'd exited their trades, then that sort of creates a big bounty for large players, somebody like Jump, to liquidate everybody and push the price down. So they potentially load it up on shorts here. Then they release the news, sell on spot, take profit from their short down the bottom, and then they start to buy back, maybe in a different account, on a different exchange, on Coinbase or something like that. So they sell on Binance, buy on Coinbase or something like that, and then they buy back up here. Now, the interesting thing, everybody was saying that this was caused by the coins moving on chain, those Mt. Gox coins, right? And it sort of spooked the market, and then we had a big sell-off. But the interesting thing is that if we go and have a look at the time of the tweet, it was actually released right at the bottom here. And I believe that the alert for the Arkham alert, which is basically Arkham alerts are basically a company and they monitor on-chain analytics, and they put out alerts to people when large accounts and stuff like that make a transaction on chain, right? So this one was specifically tracking US government coins and Mt. Gox coins, right? And so, people started freaking out. In my opinion, what actually happened was uh, at the top here, Jump probably went short. Then they started selling all their spot, and that pushed the market down quite aggressively and started taking out the massive bounty of longs that had been built up through here. And they started liquidating and forcing them to close. And we had the big 10% sell off pretty much in 1 hour. Then they released the news event, the fake news, right? Because this is completely not true at all. Those wallets have not moved or done any transactions. And the wallets that were doing transactions have been moving a lot in and out, right? So there's nothing new at all. And basically then everybody started freaking out because we get the bad news event while there's just been a big sell-off. Everybody starts selling while, the whale, whoever it was that orchestrated this potentially jump, starts buying and pushing us back up, right? So that was something pretty interesting that, just a little theory that I've been playing around with today, trying to, understand these market moves, because that is some crazy price action. We haven't seen this type of price action since, we bottomed during the FTX collapse late last year, right? We haven't seen this type of price action yet this year. So it's pretty crazy. We're going to see what happens next now. Sort of just had a nice rally, just chopping sideways at the moment. I believe that this has potential to continue to range between this area for some time, possibly come down here, maybe do something like this and then take off again. Might need to spend a little bit more time in this range. We're looking for a breakout, that bump and run type play through something like this. I sort of feel like this is similar to the price action that we had back here, to be honest, right? I don't know. I'm just sort of feeling similar vibes. So we'll have to see how this ends up playing out. And in my opinion, this is in a very similar stage of the cycle as well, after we just broke out of, the accumulation range back in 2019, right? To me, I don't know, I just feel like this is the range that we chopped around and we had the big push up. Everybody thought we were about to leg up to the next level. Then it had a big throwback, one more rally, one more big throwback, and then it chopped sideways for a while and then took off. So I sort of feel like, there's potential that we're sort of in this area here, and the rally is just overextended to the upside a little bit more. So it might pull back, chop sideways for a bit, and then take off. That is a possibility. Now, one thing to be a little bit more concerned about, to be honest, and a bit more bearish, is the action that we have going on in the stock market right now. Right. And we can't rule out the fact that this potentially could end up breaking down and getting a retest of the 20K mark. Right. So this could end up doing something like this, break down, and then it finds the base and goes from there. Right. Literally very similar to this type of price action through here. Okay. Let me just show you the sequence of events that have sort of been happening on the daily, right? So we ended up pushing up here, came back, had our first pullback, and then put in 8 in, and then had a small rally, and then rolled over. Then we put in our 9, and then pushed up from there, right? So through here, we had an 8, which, was very close to putting in a 9 to put in the top for this cycle, for this, TD cycle through here. And then we had a pullback, putting our 8. So we might be in this phase of the pullback at the moment, right? So it might just be doing this lower high, right? And then getting ready to roll over and do something like this, okay? So it can be as simple as just looking at the price action like this, right? And maybe we end up doing something like that. That is definitely not out of the possibility, guys. So have to be prepared for something like that, in my opinion. Okay. Now, if that does happen, it'll probably coincide with a breakdown in the stock market as well. And, to be honest, the weekly is not looking very good. Daily, potentially, we've just come up and retested the range highs and had a bit of a pullback there, right? Market has been really strong since, we had the banking collapse down here and rejected off our long-term downtrend line, right? And now we have to see what price is going to do next. Potentially, we do end up having a pullback to retest this area through here, right? and then rally out of there, right? But we might not do anything until next week because we do have FOMC on the 3rd. Okay, so I want to see how this weekly ends up closing. If we just look at this plainly on the weekly, like that looks like a top getting put in to me, guys, to be honest with you. And this potentially we could see another pullback, at least to the mid-range through here, and realistically to test this level through here, right? I think the main the daily candle that's probably going to look to test is this one, which was the pivot candle at the bottom of the downtrend through here. That actually, you know, there's, I think, a lot of underwater positions in this area through here. So that might need to come back and get tested, some of those close, and then potentially we end up pushing to the upside. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up just being another trap and we come back down here and then come back up to test 4,300, right? And then later in the year, potentially, you know, we end up rolling back over. Okay, there's definitely not out of the realm of possibility, but if that does happen, we do have that next rollover. You know, if we do have another trap here and it pushes back up to test this level up here, 4,300. If we do have a rollover later on in the year, that will probably coincide with either inflation not coming back down, which I think is unlikely. I think inflation is well on its path to continue to come down, but it would have something to do with, you know, another mistake by the Fed or unemployment starting to take off. You know, the other main thing to watch at the moment is earnings, but at the moment, all the earnings are coming out pretty good. Probably the only one to be a bit concerned about is UPS. And their earnings weren't very good and they had a bit of a sell-off recently. And that can be a little bit of a sign that the consumer is slowing down, buying less. But I think we're starting to see that anyway because we know that inflation is coming down. So we kind of do need to see that a little bit less consumer spending, okay? But I think the main thing that, you know, we really want to be seeing here is earnings still staying strong, which they are. Google's earnings were amazing. Facebook's earnings were really good as well. So, you know, things are looking pretty good. Microsoft as well, I should say, earnings were amazing. So things are looking pretty good in the tech sector for earnings at the moment. So as long as that stays strong, we shouldn't be expecting any really big rollovers, in my opinion. But we do need to keep our eye on that because it can change very quickly. Things to be aware of next week is we do have FOMC on Wednesday next week, which is going to be the 3rd of May. So that's a super important event. It potentially, the Fed is going to pause, not 100% sure, but they might just do one last interest rate hike and then they're probably going to be done. So they're either going to be ready to pause next week or they're going to have one more and then they're going to be done, right? And then the week after, we have on May 10th. So May the 3rd is FOMC. May 10th is going to be the April data will be revealed for CPI, right? So if both of those events end up being quite bullish, then, you know, this is going to end up just being a trap at the moment, right? Below this level here. So we have been in this trading range for pretty much all of April, okay? 26 days we've been up here, right? And we're just sort of sweeping the low through here. So I've got this white level through here. This yellow line through here is FOMC, right? We're just come down and we've swept all these lows through here, swept the liquidity. There's also a weekly level as well, okay? So need to be aware of that, right? This guy through here is the level that we're looking at there. Okay, and so having the pullback through this level below here can potentially be a trap, right? Especially when you see a nice big fat juicy wick like that. That means that there's probably a lot of shorts and puts trapped below this level. And, you know, that's sort of like bouncing off this order block through here, okay? So what we want to see for continuation to the upside is to push back to the highs, and then maybe this is just a reaccumulation rally, right? Reaccumulation range, I should say, and you know we're about to get another rally as a reclaim of the range lows through here, and we push up, maybe even get like a little inverse head and shoulders there or something like that. So that is one thing to watch immediately over the next couple of hours, couple of days. Can the ES reclaim this range low through here, or does it reject and start to roll over and head lower? Because if that happens, that definitely opens us up for that move on BTC down to 25K instead of, pushing up to the next level. Because if this reclaims and starts to push up, that's going to give a tailwind to Bitcoin. And I'm going to be expecting things to probably be more of a reaccumulation type range and push up to the outside, right? At the moment on the weekly time frame though, and sort of on the daily, still have a little bit of time to close, day and a half, right? For closes like this, I'm probably going to be leaning more inclined that this is going to have a pullback. BTC is more likely going to have a pullback to 25K. Okay, so that's what I'm sort of looking at the moment on ES. NASDAQ, really nice test of support up here, but this could just continue to bounce and go back up to retest this level here. If we lose this key level at the moment that we're sort of like sitting on right now, and obviously this will coincide with Bitcoin breaking down to 25 and ES breaking down and moving into a downtrend for the next few weeks, right, would be a break of this level because, it's been a pretty nice support level that needs to hold because this resistance through here now flipped into support. That needs to hold the support, come back below this level, then that opens up, move down to this range low level through here, okay? And then we have to see how this plays out. Could end up doing something like that and heading back to the range lows, if we start to get more bearish throughout the back end of the year, okay? That would coincide with things like unemployment starting to take off, okay? So don't forget that. Okay, BTC dominance is starting to move up a little bit more. A lot of people talking to me about this. We are coming back up to the resistance level. If this breaks out, then it's not going to be good for altcoins, that's for sure. If this starts to come back below and we do have a break below this level, right, then that's going to be pretty good for altcoins. So keep our eyes on that because we could have a little bit of an altcoin rally if this does break down, and position ourselves accordingly. Another thing to watch for that though is keep your eyes on the ETH BTC chart. At the moment, Ethereum is massively underperforming BTC. So what we want to see is this to get a bounce and get some love and move back to the upside and break through this level through here. That's going to be something to keep our eyes on, because if we do start to see Ethereum moving into an uptrend again here, because it has been in a little bit of a downtrend for some time, if it can flip that and reclaim this level at 0.7, right, that could coincide with a move back down here on dominance and then a break of the range lows through here. And that could see altcoins get a little bit of a lift and a little bit of a rally and see some life again. Because at the moment, Bitcoin is definitely sucking all the liquidity. And if we do have a big sell-off in BTC, that's most likely going to continue sucking that liquidity, okay? Try to find my chart. So this is the other thing, I think is important to take a look at, guys. And that is the Wyckoff schematic, just to go over that one more time with you. So potentially, I was looking at this when we broke out and left this area here. I was thinking that was most likely the beginning of phase E, but just reviewing that lately, I do believe that this is potentially this area at the moment that we're in right now, the SOS. So back here is our preliminary support, which is this area here. You can see that through the middle of the preliminary support, the SOS sort of stops halfway through there, right? This isn't like something you should match up as a picture, but a lot of the time it sort of rhymes. And just to the very basic level of understanding, more what we're doing is we're looking for the examples of the types of price action moves, but and the corresponding volume to that as well, right? But one thing to note through here is the preliminary support at this level here, right? Down here, there was no preliminary support through here. And so I don't actually think that this was a sign of strength for sure, but I think it was more back here type sign of strength, right? Anyway, so in my opinion, probably we're having this major sign of strength, which is above the range highs or just on the breakout point of the range highs, because this was still realistically inside, the range, right? It was inside the highs here of that range. So in my opinion, probably not the breakout SOS. And I think that this most likely is the SOS, the sign of strength that we're seeing right now. So in my opinion, this is probably going to chop sideways for a little bit longer and then push out, or we have that roll off to retest the 25K, and then we push up to finally move into phase E and have the proper markup, which potentially could take us up to 48 if we do get that really nice blow off type action. If we don't, then I think, probably the yearly high is going to be around this 38K area. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Ethereum is probably the other one to take a look at here. Is underperforming a little bit versus BTC, to be honest. So just keeping my eye on that one. I want to see it hold above this level through here. I don't want to see it come back below 1700, that's for sure. And it's just going to copy whatever BTC does, right? So if BTC does end up rolling over and pushing down to 25K, then I want to see Ethereum hold 16,000 for 16,040, right? So we could end up getting some sort of price action like this, and then it finally takes off. And then we get that gap fill as well with BTC up to 25. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense and helps to put the puzzle a little bit together of everything that's been happening in the markets over the last 24 hours and probably the reasons why it did actually play out. And it just looks like whale games taking advantage of the imbalance in liquidity, I should say imbalance in liquidations that could be hunted between the bulls and the bears. And also a couple of nice levels on ES to watch out for. I think the key to the next couple of days for sure is, can it reclaim this level, right? And we should have the answer to that by tomorrow morning. What is it going to happen in the New York session? Do we reclaim and start to push back up to this level, right? Because that's going to look a lot more like a reaccumulation type structure. Or do we just reject straight from here and start to head down? Because that's going to paint a really bearish weekly, and usually Friday is a continuation day as well. So, most likely if this starts to sell off in New York tonight and push towards making new lows, Friday is just going to be a complete dump day. And, we might be looking at this level down here for the closing bell on Friday. Okay, and then pretty much I think next week's going to be a little bit choppy as we have May the 3rd FOMC. Okay, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you all in the next session.